for the first time, this will give you just a quick update of kind of what's biting, what baits are working, and just a few quick spots on or around the island that may work for you. So right now, redfish, maybe some black drum, flounder are starting to come around, and sea trout are still there, are all biting, along with random other little fish that you may get, a bunch of pinfish, ladyfish, things like that. So what I got loaded up here is Google Earth, and we're just going to start kind of like down at the bottom of the island. So if you can get down to this point here and cast into some of these darker spots on the outgoing tide, usually, it's going to be a great spot to be able to maybe pick up some redfish or some other stuff there. Usually a good redfish spot right there, and maybe a little bit on the other side if you can. Sometimes you can even walk out here into the shallow water and cast right over to there. If you're going up and down the beach, just look for rip tides. So like it's just going to be a channel of water that's pouring outward into the ocean. Usually best times, there's like apps and stuff that are better at just making generic information like this or statements. But best times usually going to be like an hour before or after, maybe 2 hours before or after a low tide. So just a good general rule of thumb. And what you want to do is find like a rip tide that is pulling lots of sand fleas and maybe some bait fish out into the ocean there a little bit. And what happens is the bigger game fish will sit out there and just wait for stuff to get sucked out to them, and they'll attack it. So if you can kind of toss live shrimp, sand flea, or any kind of bait like that, even fish bites, if you get like the oyster scent and just chop it up real small, like those little tiny oysters that you'll see on the beach there, then usually those will work. Another good inshore spot is going to be right here where this creek mouth opens back up to the main channel. That's going to be more of a kind of outgoing tide. So when the tide's going out and the current's coming out of there, what you'll have is your big game fish will sit off to the side there. So just try not to spook them and just kind of creep up slow to them. Doubt you can probably get a cast all the way from land over there, but maybe. But that's the type of area you really want to work down in Pawleys Island, is the creek mouths. And then just kind of like follow the tide in and out. Okay, so you prefer to have like an early morning time or like a sunrise sunset time frame, and you just kind of want to work the tide and the current. So you want it to be moving one way or the other, and just think about, if you were a big redfish, where would you be sitting waiting on the little stuff to float by so you can attack it, right? So right here is a good example. It's a little bit more shallow than I would prefer. So actually, I would say usually on an outgoing tide, redfish would maybe be sitting right back in here and then come out and attack here. But it looks pretty shallow there, right? So maybe a better spot would be on an incoming tide. They would sit back here in the deeper areas and then eat food off of this sandbar here that kind of sticks out. Okay, so that's the type of spots you want to be looking for. Again, these creek mouths back in here, this one looks pretty shallow. This one looks a lot better. It looks like you have some kind of, let me move myself out of the way here, some kind of oyster bed there, maybe. Zoom in a little bit more. Yeah, so it's pretty shallow over here. So probably during like a low tide cycle, this is probably going to be sticking out of the water or very close to it, which is kind of a good thing because you probably have some oysters here, lots of fiddler crabs, and just random sea urchins that are going in and out there. And then the bait fish usually will kind of school up right here. You can even go and throw a cast net on them and get some of them probably. But see, this is a little bit deeper here. So depending on where you want to position and where the current's running in or out, you most likely are going to have some ambushing going on in this area. Most likely they're sitting over here and ambushing this way. usually on an incoming tide like that. So if you can park over here and position yourself here and cast into there without spooking them, or slowly maybe drift past them, anchor here and cast back in, maybe a good spot there. So I'm not going to go over every single spot, but that's what you're looking for. You're looking for the creek mouths that have some kind of hole next to them, near them, or in them. And when you find that, usually you're going to find bait fish, oysters, and other things that the bigger game fish are going to feed off of. So great island here. So you only got really one way. Sure, like, water's going to flow right here, but most likely those bigger game fish are going to go right through here. So depending on which way the current's going, they're not going to usually be out in the middle of the channel. They're going to be sitting up here trying to ambush in little schools and pockets. So maybe like it's probably too far in the middle of the channel. So like right here, and look at that. So like on an outgoing tide, this is really shallow looking. Let me get a little bit closer here. And then it drops off into like a deep hole. So great spot right there, most likely. And what you want to do is kind of just look at Google Maps, look at Google Earth, and plot out a few good spots that you can go and just try. And really, your goal is just to kind of weed out a lot of spots and then pick a few and then just go hit them early in the morning, sunrise, or late in the evening, sunset. And again, there's only so many ways for fish to get in and out of here too. So, I mean, dropping like a bait shrimp, fresh cut shrimp out in here on a circle hook, you're probably going to catch something. It's highly likely something's going to be swimming through here. So when it comes to the flounder too, that's one thing that is a little bit different in terms of the game fish that are like ambush predators and the way they feed. Usually flounder, from my experience, are going to be up against the bank, and a lot will be kind of by these docks and stuff. So what I like to do is just kind of drift down and then just bump the proper setup. So you can put there's all kinds of things flounder will eat, but everyone can have access to some frozen shrimp. Whether you get them from the grocery store or, Pawleys Island Outdoors is a great bait shop that I go to all the time. And just, bump that on a jig head or something that'll get you down to the bottom, and just kind of drift and bump it along the shore. And most likely you're going to literally hit one on the head or close to it, and it's going to bite. Same thing goes for these docks. Just cast up under it as close as you can get without getting snagged on anything to the seawall, and then just kind of like bump out or bump down as much as you can. And that's where I catch all the flounder that I catch, is right on these shorelines and up under docks. And sometimes you'll stir up something else under these docks as well, depending on the water depth, maybe like a sheep's head or something similar to that. So guys, I hope this was helpful. I'm in this area all the time fishing and love to do these videos and try to help people kind of learn the stuff that I've learned over the years and continue to learn. So if you're from Pawleys Island and you have a great fishing spot, make sure to leave it down in the comments below if you want to share. Some people want to share, some people don't. Or if you have any other tips or tricks for this area, that'd be awesome. It would help me out because I love to learn, and help anybody else that watches the video. Thanks for tuning in, guys.